I'm driving the new Suzuki Swift 1.2 GL. It's got a manual box. There's an auto version of this. Never a fan of like auto boxes in really small cars. I am, however, a huge fan of auto boxes in general. It's a very small car. It's priced at below 200,000 Rand. Current pricing's at about 177. Once you add all the bits and bobs that they all add, you're probably looking at about 180 to get it on the road. So it's not badly priced. I mean, like, if I'm honest, it's a lot of car for the money. And by a lot of car, I mean, like, you're not driving a small car that feels cheap. You're driving a small car that feels like really well built. It goes a lot faster than it's going at the moment. I suppose like a Saturday evening on Chapman's Peak is not the most ideal time for a good drive. Hopefully this guy gets out of our way and then we have a run. Come on, you can stop, please stop. No. Okay, so we're just going to do this review really slowly. Which is maybe not like a bad thing, because, I mean, let's face it, it's like a 1.2 61 kilowatt engine. It's not terribly quick. A couple of times, like when I'm driving over a mountain pass, find myself in fifth gear. Trying to get up to like 80, 90 in fifth is like impossible. So you end up having to go back to fourth gear, but it always feels like the revs are a little bit on the high side if you hang out in fourth. So you go back to fifth, but you don't have like the power in fifth. So it's this constant battle between like fourth gear and fifth gear. Gear changes are pretty smooth though. I mean, a car like this, we're not talking performance, and so it's not been built like a heavy clutch. It's all pretty much drive-by-wire. So you step on the clutch and it's quite soft. The bite point's a bit on the late side, but the gear changes themselves, like, it clicks in quite smoothly. I've never had an issue with the Suzuki's manual boxes. Steering is really light, especially at slow speeds. Like, going around a corner like this hardly requires any effort. And that's probably what you want in a small town car. I mean, this car like built to run around town in. You're not buying this to take it to the track. You're not buying this to do long road trips. You're buying this car to drive around town with. So it kind of makes sense that it's light and easy to drive. Like, there's nothing here that feels awkward or uncomfortable, or it's really tiny and easy to park. I mean, there are parking spaces that I can get this car into that I wouldn't even like dream of trying to get into if I was in a sedan, like an A3, even like A4s. Like, I mean, never be able to get an A4 into a parking space that this little Swift just cruises right into. The interior is pretty cool, actually. I quite like this interior. It's not... So bearing in mind we're talking about a 200,000 Rand car here, it's not flash and fancy, but it's not like lacking either. The radio is sort of built into the dash. It's got a cable thing that you can plug your phone into. Works brilliantly. It's even got Bluetooth you can connect your phone to, and that works brilliantly. You can make calls, all that kind of cool stuff. Air conditioning is relatively simple, but works really well. You got the temperature, you got the sort of where the air comes out, you got the fan speed in the middle. What more do you need? The steering wheel has some multifunctional stuff on it. So you've got your volume control and a few radio controls on the left, and then below that, kind of hidden behind the steering wheel, are these like little knobbies. And these knobbies are for sort of answering the phone, hanging up the phone, and activating Bluetooth. So like, there's a little bit of fancy, but it's not like terribly fancy. What they've done is they've kind of put all the essential stuff in the car here, kind of the stuff that you need in a car, and they've just left out like everything that you don't need. So like, you've got manually adjustable seats, like front and back. You've got electric windows all over, and only the driver's side window is auto because, well, that makes sense, right? You pull up to a boom, you need to tag something, you need to put in a ticket. Holding down the window and trying to get a tag, that's like a dumb thing. So like auto here makes sense. That's cool. It's got these funky like round air venty things here. So the dash looks cool. You don't feel like you're driving a car that looks like it's out of like the 1920s. It's cool. There's a little bit of a trip computer. It gives you average speed, range, etc. It's got a digital fuel gauge. It's got a little digital clock at the top. There are these little red insets around the rev counter and the speedometer, which match the outside of the car. Now I don't know whether that's like intentional. Like if I bought a green one, would the insets be green? I'd have to actually see another one to be sure. But either way, it's pretty cool. Like having the little red. It doesn't mean performance or anything. It's just color coded to the car. Like if you open the tabs a little bit, like it goes. It doesn't like not go, but it's not. It's a 1.2 60 kilowatt engine. Well, what are you expecting? Handling around corners when you're going a little bit on the speedy side is okay. It's like it's not a terrible amount of feedback. You're not really going fast enough to be kind of pinning it and needing to figure out exactly where you are. But it's like okay, it's not completely numb. It's not completely dead. It's okay. It's like it's a small town car. But there's like, and because it's okay, it actually means like it's a little bit on the fun side. You don't want to be going like too outlandish here. But at the same time, like you can still go. You don't feel like you're gonna die if you do more than 60 into a bend. You feel like I could drive this and like it'll be okay. Go find a spot where I can show you what the outside of this car looks like, because that is in fact where most of the really interesting bits of this car actually are. So let's start in the front. The front of the car is like the most sort of redesigned, redeveloped part of the car. So the front of the car has got a level of cuteness to it, which is like actually really cool. It looks like a happy car. It actually looks like it's got a bit of a smile. It looks like it's smiling at you. And that's like fun. You want a small, fun town car, then that's exactly what you need. I saw these on the car. These are kind of those water flare goodies where you can actually, if it's raining, you can open the window slightly and any water that comes over gets deflected. Not sure whether those are factory fitted. I had the Suzuki Swift Desire like 2 weeks ago, didn't have those on it. Mirrors, wheels, back door has the handle at the top of the door, so it kind of gives the car more of like a coupe like feel without like actually being a coupe. So that's how you open and close the back door. The one complaint I do have about this car is that sometimes, and I've noticed it after driving it for a week, you close the door and it doesn't like close properly. It kind of needs a bit of like encouragement to close, and I've had that with like all the doors. Back, it actually looks quite cool as well. It's got kind of bulging lights, so there's almost like there's a shelf that forms over here, and it gives the car like a bit more of like a presence on the road, despite being like cute. And all over, I think the proportions are actually really nice. It's got this little spoiler at the top here, which finishes it off nicely. I think it would look a bit bland without the spoiler. The way to open the boot is I've inserted like the button right inside this groove at the bottom here, and it opens up like that. Boot's okay. You can kind of get a smallish ladder in there. It's got this flat at the back. Not massive in terms of boot space, but it's not tiny either. All round, I think the outside of the car is actually really nice. I really like the proportions. I like the shape. I like the lines down the side. It's quite rounded as opposed to like all the sharp edges that we've seen in cars for like the last decade. One or two things on the inside though that bug me. So one of the first things that like really irks me about this car is like this bank of blank plates here. You kind of think, like, are there that many things you could add to the car? What would they be? And why did I buy the car that doesn't have them? So that's like a little bit weird for me. And then in terms of the steering wheel, like I mentioned earlier, there's the volume controls or the telephone settings here. Why not like balance it out and add the phone stuff on that side, and then it looks more evenly. Anyways, so that's like, I would do it that way. It just gives you that feeling of the steering wheel is a bit more balanced, like everything's hanging off on the left here. Otherwise, the rest of the car, there's a socket here for a charger, and obviously the USB port with an auxiliary jack. That's quite a cool location for it. I like that. The only other thing that I really complain about is there's nowhere to put a phone, really. So you end up kind of like hiding it down there. It's like, could have done something better over here. We've got 2 cup holders there, obviously, and it's got 1 cup holder in the back here. But all round, I mean, for a car that's sub 200,000 Rand, this is actually ridiculously good.